I always thought my life was steady, predictable, like a well-tuned engine humming along a quiet road. My name's Daniel, and for 12 years, I'd built a world with Claire. She was my compass, my anchor. We met in college, her laugh cutting through the noise of a crowded bar like a melody I couldn't shake. Back then, she had this wild streak, untamed hair, a spark in her eyes that promised adventure. I was the grounded one, the guy who planned our dates down to the minute. Opposites attract, they say, and we did. Marriage followed, then a house in the suburbs, a dog named Rusty, and a rhythm that felt unshakable. I worked long hours as a structural engineer, designing bridges to connect places and people. Claire taught art at the local high school, her days filled with paint-splattered kids and chaotic creativity. We were a team, or so I thought. It started with little things, cracks in the foundation I didn't notice at first. She'd linger in the bathroom with her phone, the door locked, claiming she was scrolling through lesson plans. Her laughter, once so free, grew guarded, like she was holding something back. I'd ask how her day went, and she'd shrug, her answers short, her eyes drifting to some distant point I couldn't reach. I told myself it was stress. Midterms were coming up, and her students were a handful. But then there were the late nights. Staff meetings, she'd say, slipping out the door with a quick kiss that felt more like a formality. I'd sit on the couch with Rusty, the TV flickering, waiting for her headlights to sweep across the driveway. Sometimes she'd come home smelling faintly of wine, her cheeks flushed, her stories vague. I trusted her. That's what you do when you've built a life together, you trust. The first real clue hit me like a bee, ick through a window. It was a Thursday, one of those crisp October evenings where the air bites just enough to keep you awake. I was in the garage, tinkering with an old radio I'd promised to fix, when her phone buzzed on the workbench. She'd left it there, something she never did. The screen lit up with a text. Missed you last night. Same time tomorrow. No name, just a number. My stomach twisted, but I didn't touch it. I stood there, staring, the hum of the radio static filling the silence. When she came out to grab it, she saw my face and froze. What's wrong? She asked, her voice too light, too casual. I didn't answer, couldn't. The doubt seated itself right there, a splinter under my skin I couldn't dig out. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay beside her, listening to her steady breathing, wondering who she'd been with. Was it a friend? A colleague? Someone I knew? My mind spun through faces. Parents from her school, the guy who fixed our furnace last month, even my old buddy Mark, who'd always lingered too long when he dropped by. I told myself I was paranoid, that 12 years couldn't unravel over a single text. But the next day I started watching. Not stalking, just observing. I noted the time she left for work, the way she dressed, the extra coat of lipstick she'd swipe on before those meetings. I didn't confront her. I wasn't ready. Instead, I let the suspicion simmer, a slow burn that ate away at the man I used to be. By the weekend, I was a shadow of myself. Claire noticed, of course. You okay, Dan? She'd ask, her hand brushing my arm like it always had. I'd nod, force a smile, and say something about a tough project at work. She'd buy it or pretend to. Saturday night, she said she was meeting a friend for drinks. Girls' night, she called it, tossing her purse over her shoulder. I watched her car pull away, then grabbed my keys. I didn't plan to follow her. It just happened. My truck rumbled down the street, keeping a safe distance, my heart hammering against my ribs. I wasn't sure what I'd find, but I knew I couldn't sit home wondering anymore. The city lights blurred past as I trailed her sedan, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. Claire drove with purpose, her turns sharp, her route unfamiliar. We weren't headed to the usual spots, the cozy wine bar she loved or the diner where her teacher friends gathered. No, this was downtown, a maze of narrow streets and neon signs I rarely ventured into. My truck felt too big, too loud, but I kept my distance, headlights dimmed, praying she wouldn't glance in her rearview. She pulled into a parking lot behind a place called the Lantern, a low brick building with tinted windows and a flickering sign. I'd never heard of it. I parked across the street, engine off, and watched her step out, smoothing her skirt, her hair catching the glow of a street lamp. She looked nervous or excited. Couldn't tell. She didn't go in alone. A man was waiting by the door, leaning against the wall like he owned the place. Tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair and a leather jacket that screamed trouble. He straightened when he saw her, a grin spreading across his face. My chest tightened as she walked straight to him, no hesitation, her hand brushing his arm in a way that wasn't friendly. It was familiar. They disappeared inside, the door swallowing them whole. I sat there, frozen, the air in the truck turning thick. My mind raced. Who was he? How long had this been going on? I wanted to storm in, drag her out, demand answers, but I didn't. I needed proof, something solid to hold on to when the inevitable fight came. I waited an hour, maybe two, the dashboard clock ticking louder than my thoughts. When they emerged, they were laughing, her head tilted back, his arms slung low around her waist. My throat burned. They crossed the lot to his car, a sleek black thing that looked like it cost more than my annual salary, and climbed in. I followed again, my hands shaking now, as he drove them to a motel on the edge of town. The kind of place you don't take your wife. The kind with hourly rates and stained curtains. They parked, and I watched them stumble toward a room. Her fingers tangled in his, the door slamming shut behind them. I didn't need to see more. I knew. Driving home, I felt hollow, like someone had carved out my insides and left the shell. Rusty greeted me at the door, tail wagging, oblivious to the storm brewing in me. I poured a whiskey, then another, the burn doing nothing to dull the ache. I replayed every moment of our marriage, the quiet mornings, the vacations, the way she'd curl into me on the couch. Had it all been a lie? I pulled out my laptop, hands trembling, and started digging. The number from her phone, I'd memorized it. A reverse lookup gave me a name, Ethan Carver. A quick search pulled up his profile, ex-military, now a personal trainer, all chiseled jaw and cocky smiles. He lived 20 minutes away. I stared at his photo until my eyes blurred, the whiskey bottle half empty by then. The next morning, Claire came home, her hair mussed, her excuse flimsy. "Stayed at Jen's," she said, avoiding my gaze as she kicked off her shoes. I nodded, said nothing. She didn't notice the shift in me, the way my silence wasn't just exhaustion but something darker. I spent the day planning, not confronting, not yet. I needed more. I called in a favor from a guy I knew. A tech was named Greg who owed me for a job I'd done years back. "Can you track a phone?" I asked. He didn't ask why, just told me what he'd need. By Monday, I had a way in, access to her location, her texts, everything. I wasn't proud of it, but pride was long gone. This wasn't about saving us anymore. It was about knowing how deep the betrayal ran. The data started pouring in by Tuesday afternoon. Greg had rigged something discreet, a little program that mirrored Claire's phone to my laptop. Every ping, every message, every step she took lit up my screen like a map to her secret life. I sat in my home office, door locked, Rusty whining outside, as I watched her move through her day. She was at school, then the grocery store, then home, nothing unusual. But at 6 p.m., her dot shifted again, heading downtown. Another staff meeting. She'd told me over breakfast, her voice smooth as butter. I didn't call her out. I just watched. Sure enough, she ended up at the Lantern again. Texts popped up, short and coded. "Here. Can't wait." No names, but I knew who they were from. Ethan. I dug deeper. Her phone history showed late-night calls, some lasting hours, stretching back months. Photos, too, nothing explicit but intimate. Her smiling in a park I didn't recognize, his arm around her. A selfie of them at a diner, her head on his shoulder. Each image was a knife twist, but I kept scrolling, cataloging every moment she'd spent building this other life. I cross-referenced dates with my own schedule, nights I'd been on site, inspecting bridges hours away, or weekends I'd crashed early from exhaustion. She'd planned it around me, precise as a blueprint. The realization hit hard. This wasn't a fling. It was a relationship. I started tailing her in person again, needing to see it with my own eyes. Wednesday night, She met him at a bar across town. I parked down the street, binoculars in hand, feeling like a stranger in my own life. They sat in a booth, her foot brushing his under the table, their hands lingering too long over drinks. She laughed that laugh, the one I hadn't heard in months, and he leaned in, whispering something that made her blush. I wanted to smash the window, haul him out by his stupid leather jacket, but I stayed put. Revenge wasn't about fists. Not yet. It had to be calculated, something that had hit them where it hurt most. Back home, I pieced together a timeline. 6 months, at least, that's how long it had been going on. Maybe more. I found receipts in her purse, coffee shops, hotels, a lingerie store I'd never benefited from. I hacked into her email, something I'd never thought I'd do, and found a thread with Ethan buried in a folder labeled work. They talked about me sometimes. "Dan's clueless," she wrote once. "Good," he replied. "Keep it that way." My blood boiled, but I kept reading, every word fueling the furnace inside me. They'd even planned a weekend away next month, when I'd be at a conference. She'd told me it was a teacher retreat. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the dark, rusty at my feet, plotting. Confronting her wouldn't be enough. She'd lie, cry, turn it back on me. I needed something bigger, something that'd strip them bare and leave them scrambling. Thursday morning, I called Greg again. "Can you get into his life, too?" I asked. "Ethan's, I meant." Greg hesitated, then agreed. By evening, I had a dossier, Ethan's address, his clients, his gym schedule. He had a reputation, 2 rumors of affairs with married women, a temper that had landed him in bar fights. Perfect. I could use that. The plan started forming, jagged and raw, but clear. I'd ruin them both, piece by piece, until they begged for mercy they wouldn't get. Friday came, and I was a man possessed. Claire left for work like nothing was wrong, her routine polished to a sheen. Coffee in hand, a peck on my cheek, that same "love you" she'd said for years. It sounded hollow now, a script she'd memorized. I waited until her car was out of sight, then dove back into the data. Greg had delivered more on Ethan: bank records, social media, even a list of his regular haunts. The guy lived loud, flashing cash he didn't quite have, his life a house of cards waiting for a gust. I saw my opening. If I could topple him, Claire would feel it, too. But it had to be precise, surgical, no messy outbursts, no public scenes. I wanted them to unravel slowly, to taste every second of it. I started with his gym. He owned a small training studio downtown, a gritty spot with kettlebells and mirrored walls. Reviews online were mixed. Some clients raved. Others complained about canceled sessions or his attitude. I dug into his business license, his tax filings, anything public. Nothing glaring, but there were gaps, unexplained deposits, a loan he'd defaulted on 2 years back. I called a friend, Tom, who worked in city compliance. "Can you flag a business for inspection?" I asked, keeping it vague. Tom owed me from a poker game gone wrong. He didn't push for details. By noon, Ethan's gym was on the radar, health code checks, fire safety, the works. It wouldn't shut him down, but it'd tie him up, cost him time and money he couldn't spare. Next, I turned to Claire's world. She'd always been private about her job, but I knew her school's administration hated drama. I drafted an anonymous email, careful, untraceable, hinting at inappropriate conduct by a teacher. No names, just enough to stir the pot. I sent it to the principal, a stern woman named Mrs. Hargrove who'd once chewed me out for parking in the wrong spot at a school event. If she sniffed around, Claire's late nights and flimsy excuses might raise flags. I didn't want her fired, not yet, but I wanted her squirming, paranoid, the way I'd been for weeks. That night, she came home late again, her blouse wrinkled, her eyes darting when I asked how her day was. "Fine," she said. Too quick, heading for the shower. I followed her upstairs, casual as I could manage, and peeked at her phone while the water ran. More texts from Ethan. "Gym's a mess." Inspectors showed up. "You okay?" Her reply, "Rough day too. Need to see you." I smirked, bitter and cold. The wheels were turning. I slipped out before she noticed, my mind already on the next step. Ethan's temper, I'd heard stories. If I could push him to snap, he'd dig his own grave. Saturday, I tailed him instead of her. He was at the gym, barking at a scrawny kid sweeping the floor, his face red from whatever the inspectors had found. I parked nearby, anonymous in the crowd, and watched him storm out to his car. That's when I made my move. I'd printed flyers. Nothing fancy. Just his photo, his name, and cheating husbands beware. Ethan Carver's on the prowl. Crude, but effective. I slipped them under windshield wipers in the lot, a dozen or so, knowing he'd see them eventually. Sure enough, he did. He ripped one off a car, his jaw tight, and tore it to shreds, looking around like he'd punch whoever was watching. I stayed low, my pulse racing. He didn't know it was me. Not yet. But he'd feel the heat, and Claire would too when the rumors spread. Sunday morning, the house was quiet. Too quiet. Claire slept in, her face peaceful in a way that mocked me. I stood over her, coffee mug in hand, wondering how she could look so calm while I was drowning. Downstairs, I checked my laptop. Her phone had pinged at Ethan's place last night, long after she'd claimed to be grading papers at school. The lie didn't even sting anymore. It just fueled me. I'd spent the night refining my plan, a web tightening around them both. Ethan's gym was in chaos. Claire's job was under a microscope, and those flyers were just the start. I wanted them paranoid, isolated, turning on each other before I delivered the final blow. I started with his clients. Using a burner email, I sent messages to a handful I'd found online, wealthy types who paid for his elite training. The emails were subtle. Heard Ethan's got some personal issues. Might affect his focus. Thought you should know. I attached a photo from one of his late-night bar crawls, time-stamped, his arm around Claire. Let them wonder. By midday, Greg texted me. 2 clients had already canceled. Ethan's temper flared on social media. He posted a rant about liars and cowards, his words sloppy with rage. I smiled, sipping my coffee. He was cracking. Claire wasn't far behind. She got a call from Mrs. Hargrove that afternoon, her face paling as she listened. "Yes, of course," she said, her voice tight. "I'll come in tomorrow." When she hung up, I asked what was wrong, playing the concerned husband. "Just some mix-up at school," she muttered, avoiding my eyes. I knew better. The email had worked. Hargrove was sniffing around. Claire spent the rest of the day distracted, checking her phone obsessively, texting Ethan in bursts. "What's happening?" she wrote. "Everything's falling apart," he replied. I watched it all unfold, a silent puppeteer tugging strings. Monday, I upped the ante. Ethan's gym got another hit, a fake complaint to the Better Business Bureau, claiming unsanitary conditions. I'd seen the place. It wasn't a stretch. Meanwhile, I mailed an envelope to his landlord, and signed, of course, with copies of those flyers and a note. "Your tenant's causing trouble. If the lease was shaky, that might tip it." For Claire, I planted seeds at home. I left my laptop open, a search history visible, signs of infidelity. She saw it, her breath catching, but said nothing. Good. Let her sweat. That night, she met Ethan again, their voices hushed in a diner parking lot. I watched from my truck, lip-reading fragments. "Someone knows," she said. "We need to stop," he snapped. They didn't, though. Not yet. By Tuesday, the cracks were gaping. Ethan's gym lost another client, and his landlord called him. I overheard it through Greg's hack. Claire came home rattled, claiming a parent complaint at school. I nodded, feigning sympathy, while inside I burned. The revenge was working, but it wasn't enough. I wanted them broken, not just bruised. I sat down that night with a new idea, the cruelest yet. I'd turn their world public. Not with fists or shouts, but with exposure so raw they'd never recover. I started drafting a letter, a video, something undeniable. The endgame was coming, and I'd make sure they felt every inch of the fall. Wednesday morning broke gray and heavy, the sky mirroring the storm inside me. Claire shuffled around the kitchen, her movements sluggish, her eyes ringed with shadows. She barely spoke, just mumbled something about a meeting with Hargrove after school. I nodded, stirring my coffee, the spoon clinking louder than necessary. She didn't notice the edge in me, The way my silence had sharpened into a blade. I'd spent the night awake, refining my next move. A move that'd take this from quiet sabotage to a public reckoning. Ethan's gym was teetering, Claire's job was wobbling, but they still had each other. That was the thread I'd snap next. I wanted them exposed, raw and bleeding, for everyone to see. I started with Ethan's world. His social media was a goldmine, cocky posts, gym selfies, hints of his playboy life. I'd already rattled his clients, but now I'd go wider. Using a fake account, I joined local fitness groups online, places where his name floated like a badge of honor. I posted anonymously, "Anyone else hear about Ethan Carver's side gigs? Not just training, breaking up marriages too." I attached a blurry photo of him and Claire outside that motel, grainy but unmistakable. The comments erupted. Some dismissed it, others piled on with rumors of their own. "Heard he's a hothead," one wrote. "Saw him with a married chick at the Lantern," another added. I watched the fire spread, my chest tight with a mix of triumph and nausea. Claire's turn came next. Her school had a parent-teacher forum online, a cesspool of gossip masquerading as concern. I crafted another anonymous post, worried about a teacher's conduct, late nights, personal distractions. Should we trust our kids with someone like that? No names, but the hints were clear. Within hours, parents were speculating, some mentioning Claire by name, her art classes, her unpredictable schedule. I leaned back in my office chair, rusty at my feet, as the chaos unfolded. She'd feel the eyes on her soon, the whispers creeping into her classroom. Hargrove wouldn't ignore it much longer. That afternoon, I checked Greg's updates. Ethan's landlord was threatening eviction. Those flyers had spooked him, and the gym's sudden issues didn't help. Claire's texts to Ethan were frantic now. "People are talking. What do we do?" His reply was curt. "Handle it. I'm drowning here." I smirked, cold and hollow. They were turning on each other, just as I'd hoped. But it wasn't enough. I needed something bigger, something that'd strip them bare in front of everyone we knew. I started recording, hours of audio from her phone, snippets of their calls. Her voice, soft and pleading. "I can't leave him yet." His, rough and impatient. "Then why are we doing this?" I saved it all, a ticking bomb I'd detonate soon. By evening, Claire came home a wreck. She dropped her bag, her hands trembling, and poured a glass of wine without a word. "Rough day?" I asked, my tone neutral. She nodded, staring at the counter. "Parents are insane," she said, her voice thin. I didn't push. I didn't need to. She was cracking, and I was the one holding the hammer. That night, I finalized my plan. A video, raw and unfiltered, of their own words, their own lies. I'd share it where it had hurt most. Our community, her school, his clients. The fallout would be brutal, and I'd watch it burn from the sidelines, untouched. Thursday dawned with a chill that seeped into my bones. Claire left early, her face drawn, muttering about a parent conference. I knew it was more. Hargrove had called her in, likely over the forum buzz. I sat at the kitchen table, laptop open, the video taking shape. I'd stitched together the audio clips. Her giggles, his gruff promises, their casual disdain for me. "Dan's too busy with his bridges," she'd said once, laughing. "He'd never suspect." I layered it with screenshots, texts, that motel photo, a receipt from their weekend trip. It was ugly, undeniable, a mirror to their betrayal. I titled it simply, "The Truth." No flair, just facts. I didn't upload it yet. Timing was everything. Instead, I pushed the smaller fires. Ethan's gym got another hit. A fake review on every site I could find, claiming unprofessional behavior and sketchy vibes. His rating tanked, and his rants online grew wilder. "Someone's out to get me," he posted, paranoid and sloppy. Good. Let him stew. For Claire, I mailed a printed screenshot, her and Ethan at the diner, to Hargrove's office, anonymous, with a note, "Concerned parent." It'd land tomorrow, right when she'd be scrambling to explain the forum mess. I wanted her cornered, no room to wiggle free. Midday, I drove to Ethan's gym, parking a block away. The place looked grim, lights off, a closed for maintenance sign taped to the door. A guy in a city vest was inspecting the exterior, clipboard in hand. My compliance nudge had worked. Ethan stormed out, yelling at the inspector, his voice carrying across the street. "This is harassment," he barked, fists clenched. The inspector didn't flinch, just kept writing. I stayed low, snapping photos. If he snapped, it'd only tighten the noose. He didn't see me, but I saw him, unraveling, piece by piece. Claire texted me that afternoon, a rare move. "Home late, emergency meeting." I replied, "Okay," keeping it short. I tracked her phone. She went straight to Ethan's apartment. Their call log showed a fight. "You said this wouldn't happen," she hissed. "Fix your own mess," he shot back. I listened live, Greg's hack feeding me every word. They were crumbling, mistrust seeping in. I added that clip to the video, their panic a perfect crescendo. By nightfall, I had a rough cut. 5 minutes of their voices, their lies, their unraveling. It was brutal and it was almost ready. That night, I sat with Rusty, the house dark, the video file glowing on my screen. Claire stumbled in past midnight, reeking of wine and desperation. "You okay?" I asked, my voice flat. She nodded, too quick, and fled upstairs. I didn't follow. I uploaded the video to a private link, testing it, imagining the moment I'd set it loose. Tomorrow I'd seat it, friends, coworkers, her school listserv, his client roster. They'd wake to a spotlight they couldn't escape. I leaned back, the dog's head on my knee, and felt the first real calm in weeks. The end was close. Friday morning, Claire was a ghost. Up before me, out the door with a mumbled goodbye. I didn't care. My focus was the video, polished now, a dagger sharpened to a razor's edge. I'd spent the night tweaking it, adding timestamps, blurring Rusty's barks from one clip, making sure every word hit like a punch. It was ready. I brewed coffee, hands steady, and mapped the drop. First, a burner email to our mutual friends, Mark, Jen, the old college crew, labeled "Something You Should Know." Next, Claire's school listserv, hijacked through Greg's backdoor. Then Ethan's clients, scraped from his site. I'd scatter it wide, let it spread like wildfire. No one would miss it. I sent the first batch at 9 a.m. Mark called 10 minutes later, voice tight. "Dan, what the hell is this?" he asked. "Just watch," I said, hanging up. Jen texted, "Is this real?" I didn't reply. The school listserv went out at noon, right when Claire would be in her meeting with Hargrove. I pictured her phone buzzing, parents whispering, Hargrove's glare as the video played. Ethan's clients got it by 2 p.m. His inbox would light up, cancellations rolling in. I sat back, tracking her phone. She was still at school, then bolted to Ethan's. Perfect. Let them face it together. The fallout hit fast. Mark showed up at the house, banging on the door. "Why didn't you tell me?" he demanded, eyes wide. I shrugged. Didn't know how. He paced, ranting about Claire, about Ethan, who he'd met once at a barbecue. "That guy's a tool," he said. I nodded, letting him vent. My phone buzzed. Texts from coworkers, awkward sympathies. Saw the video. "You okay?" I ignored them. Claire called at 4 p.m., her voice shaking. "Dan, we need to talk." I said, "Later," and hung up. She'd seen it. Good. Greg pinged me. Ethan's gym was trending locally, not in a good way. Closed indefinitely. His site read, buried under 1-star reviews. His landlord had pulled the plug. Claire's school was quieter, but the forum exploded. Parents demanding answers, some calling for her job. Hargrove emailed the staff, a stiff, addressing concerns memo. I knew Claire was done there, even if they didn't fire her outright. She'd never teach again without whispers trailing her. I checked her texts to Ethan. "This is everywhere. What do we do?" His reply, "I'm out. You're on your own." I laughed, sharp and bitter. The rats were jumping ship. By evening, Claire came home, eyes red, hands trembling. "Dan," she started, voice breaking. I cut her off. "Saw your meeting went well." She froze, mouth open, then crumpled onto the couch, sobbing. I didn't move. The video had done its work. Our world, her world, his world, all ash. I poured a whiskey, watching her cry, feeling nothing but the cold satisfaction of a job well done. Tomorrow I'd finish it. Saturday morning, Claire didn't get out of bed. I heard her upstairs, pacing, then silence. I didn't check on her. My focus was the final blow, a twist to bury them deeper. The video had ripped through their lives, but I wanted permanence, a scar they'd carry forever. I kept one ace up my sleeve, Ethan's past. Greg had dug up dirt. Old arrest records, domestic disputes from years back, hushed up but not erased. I packaged them, court docs, mugshots, into a new email blast, sent to his remaining contacts, his landlord, even his family I tracked down online. Know who you're dealing with, I wrote. Let him explain that to his mother. For Claire, it was simpler. I filed for divorce that morning, papers drawn up by a lawyer friend who'd asked no questions. I left them on the kitchen counter, signed, with a note, "You're free now." She'd find them when she dragged herself downstairs. I didn't need her tears or her excuses. I needed her gone. The house was mine. She'd get nothing but her clothes and her shame. I'd already changed the locks, a locksmith slipping in while she slept. She'd figure it out soon enough. Midday, I drove to Ethan's apartment, not to confront, just to see. His car was gone, windows dark. A neighbor said he'd peeled out an hour ago, bags in hand. Running, probably. The gym was a ghost town. 2, boarded up. A for lease sign slapped on the door. I snapped a photo, a trophy of sorts. Claire's phone showed her still at home, then moving, likely to a friend's, maybe her sister's. I didn't care where. Greg texted, "She's off the school roster. Quiet exit." Hargrove had cut her loose, no fuss, no fight. The video had been too loud to ignore. Friends kept calling, offering beers, pity, anger on my behalf. I turned them down. This wasn't about healing, it was about winning. I checked the online fallout. Ethan's name was mud, his profiles deleted, his reputation a punchline. Claire's art page, once full of vibrant posts, went silent. The video still circulated, shared and reshared, a ghost haunting their every move. I leaned back in my chair, Rusty snoring beside me, and felt the weight lift. Not peace, not yet, but a hollow victory that tasted sharp and clean. That night, Claire banged on the door, her key useless. "Dan, let me in," she yelled, voice raw. I opened it a crack, papers in hand. "Sign," I said, shoving them at her. She stared, tears streaming, then scrawled her name, hands shaking. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Too late," I replied, shutting the door. She stood there, sobbing, then left. I watched her taillights fade, the last thread snapping. The revenge was complete, cruel, cold, and mine. Sunday stretched long and quiet, the house empty in a way it hadn't been before. Rusty padded around, sniffing Claire's old spots. The couch, the rug by the sink, confused by her absence. I gave him an extra treat, scratched his ears, and turned on the TV to fill the silence. The divorce papers sat filed, the locks held firm, and the video's echoes still rippled online. Ethan was gone. Greg tracked his phone to a town 3 hours north, a desperate bolt from the wreckage. Claire had crashed at her sister's, her car spotted there by a nosy neighbor I'd tipped off. They were shadows now, fleeing the light I turned on them. I didn't rest, though. Revenge wasn't just about the strike. It was about the aftermath, ensuring they'd never climb back. I dug into Ethan's new hiding spot, a cheap motel off the highway. I sent an anonymous tip to a local paper there, small-town rags love scandal. Fugitive trainer with a past. I wrote, attaching his arrest records. It wouldn't make headlines, but it'd keep him looking over his shoulder. For Claire, I mailed a copy of the video to her sister's address. No note, just the file. Let her family see who she really was. Her sister had always been judgy, perfect audience for the truth. Mid-morning, I cleaned house. Her paints, her sketchbooks, tossed in a box for the curb. A photo of us from Hawaii, her smile wide, went in the trash. I kept the dog, the furniture, the life I'd earned. Friends texted updates, Ethan's old clients were suing him for unused sessions. His gym's lease officially dead. Claire's name popped up in a teacher chat, blacklisted from local schools. Too much drama, someone wrote. I sipped a beer, the bitter taste matching my mood. They'd lost everything. Jobs, homes, dignity. While I stood firm, the architect of their ruin. Afternoon brought a call from Mark. You went hard, man, he said, half admiring, half worried. Had to, I replied. He didn't push. He'd seen the video, knew the depth of the cut. I hung up, checked my laptop. Ethan's motel had a review now, 1 star, mentioning a shady guy in room 12. Claire's sister posted a vague rant online about toxic people, likely aimed at her. The dominoes kept falling, each one a quiet thrill. I wasn't done, though. One last twist waited, a final nail for their coffins. By night, I sat with Rusty, the plan clear. Tomorrow, I'd sell the story, anonymous, of course, to a tabloid site. Cheating wife and trainer destroyed by husband's revenge. No names, just enough detail to keep it alive. A legend they'd never outrun. I'd won, not with fists or shouts, but with precision. A bridge I'd built to their downfall. The cruelty felt right, a balance restored. I slept sounder than I had in months. The dog snores my only company. The weight of betrayal finally off my chest. Monday morning arrived with a sharpness I hadn't felt in weeks. The air was crisp, the house silent except for Rusty's gentle snores as he sprawled across the living room rug. I brewed coffee, strong and black, and sat at the kitchen table, my laptop humming to life. Claire was gone. Ethan was on the run, and the wreckage of their lives lay scattered behind them. But I wasn't finished. Revenge, I'd learned, wasn't a single blow. It was a slow grind, a machine I'd set in motion that wouldn't stop until they were dust. Today, I'd tighten the screws, ensure they'd never find solid ground again. I started with the tabloid pitch. I'd found a site online sleazy, but hungry for clicks, called The Dirty Scoop. Perfect. I drafted the story from a burner email. Suburban wife and her bad boy trainer thought they could play house. Her husband had other plans. I wove in the details, the video, the gym's collapse, her job loss, keeping it vague enough to dodge lawsuits but vivid enough to stick. I attached a still from the motel photo, their faces blurred but the scene unmistakable. Payment up front, I wrote, asking for a modest sum. They bit within an hour, wiring the cash. By noon, the headline screamed across their homepage. Husband's revenge wrecks cheating duo. I leaned back, sipping my coffee, watching the comments roll in, crude, gleeful, exactly what I'd wanted. Next, I turned to Ethan's new hideout. That motel tip to the local paper had landed. A short blurb ran that morning, calling him a drifter with a rap sheet. I upped the ante. Using another fake account, I posted in a regional crime watch group. Spotted this guy at the Pineview Motel. Heard he's trouble. Anyone know him? I dropped his mugshot, old but recognizable. The thread blew up, locals speculating, some claiming they'd seen him skulking around. He'd feel the eyes soon, the paranoia creeping in. A man like him couldn't stand being hunted. It'd drive him deeper into the hole. Claire wasn't spared. Her sister's place was her last refuge, but I'd make it a cage. I sent a second package, more screenshots, a USB of the video, to her sister's husband, a straight-laced accountant who'd always eyed Claire warily. No note, just the evidence. Let him stew, let him push her out. I tracked her phone. She was still there, but her texts to Ethan had stopped. He'd gone dark, likely ditched his number. Good. Isolation was the goal. I called my lawyer, confirmed the divorce filing was moving fast. She signed, he said. It's clean. I nodded, the final tether fraying. Evening settled in, and I walked Rusty, the neighborhood quiet, the streetlights casting long shadows. My phone buzzed, Mark again. That article's everywhere, he said. You're a legend, man. I didn't laugh. Just leveling the field, I replied. He paused, then added, she called Jen, crying. Says she's ruined. I said nothing, hung up. Ruined was the point. I got home, poured a whiskey, and checked the tabloid stats, thousands of shares, the story metastasizing online. Claire and Ethan weren't just broken. They were a cautionary tale now, a punchline I'd written. The machine hummed on, and I slept like a man unburdened. Tuesday unfolded with a strange calm, the kind that follows a storm when the debris is still settling. I woke early, fed Rusty, and scanned the fallout. The tabloid piece had legs, picked up by gossip blogs, tweeted by strangers, even dissected on a late-night podcast I found online. "This guy's a mastermind," the host cackled, reading my story like a script. I didn't care about the praise. I cared about the reach. Every click, every share drove the knife deeper into Claire and Ethan, pinning them under a spotlight they couldn't escape. I sipped my coffee, the bitterness a comfort, and planned the day's strikes. Ethan first. That Crime Watch post had stirred the pot. Someone claimed he'd checked out of the motel. Another swore he'd seen him at a gas station, twitchy and unshaven. I fueled the chase. I called the motel from a blocked number, posing as a concerned citizen. "Heard that guy in room 12 has a record. Might be trouble," I said. The clerk grunted, promised to look into it. Then I hit the local sheriff's tip line. Same story. Suspicious guy, dark hair, leather jacket, Pineview Motel. No proof, just whispers, but small towns thrive on rumors. If he was still nearby, they'd flush him out. If he'd bolted, he'd keep running, always looking back. Claire's turn came next. Her sister's husband had gotten the package. I saw it in a curt text she sent her, intercepted by Greg's hack. "You need to go. This is too much." She replied, pleading, "I've nowhere else." No response. I smiled, imagining her scrambling, bags in hand. I mailed one last gift to her parents retired in Florida. A letter, typed, no signature. "Your daughter's choices hurt more than just her husband. See for yourself." The video USB went with it. They'd always doted on her. Let them see the mess she'd made. Her family ties, her last lifeline, would fray under that weight. Midday, I met my lawyer downtown. The divorce was speeding through. Claire hadn't contested, too broken to fight. "She gets nothing," he confirmed. "House, savings, all yours." I nodded, signed the final papers. On the drive home, I passed her school. Her art room dark. A new teacher's name on the door. I stopped at Ethan's old gym, too, the for lease sign peeling already. Ghosts of their lives erased. My phone buzzed, Jen this time. "She's couch surfing, Dan. Looks like hell." I didn't reply. Hell was where she belonged. Night fell and I cooked steak, Rusty begging at my feet. The tabloid story hit a new peak. Some sleuth had linked it to Ethan's gym closure, digging up his name. Claire stayed unmasked, but the comments guessed, "Art teacher wife? Suburban scandal." I watched it spread, a virus I'd unleashed. The machine was relentless, and I was its engineer, tweaking the gears, savoring the grind. Tomorrow I'd push harder, but tonight I ate in peace, the dog at my side, the house mine alone. Wednesday brought a chill, the sky leaden, a fitting backdrop to the endgame I'd mapped out. Claire and Ethan were shadows now, scrambling in the ruins I'd left them, but I wasn't done carving. The tabloid story had ignited a firestorm. Blogs speculating, strangers dissecting, their lives a public autopsy. I'd turned their betrayal into a spectacle, but I wanted more. A permanence, a mark that'd follow them to their graves. I sat with my coffee, Rusty gnawing a bone, and opened my laptop. The machine needed one last crank, a final twist to seal their fates. Ethan's trail was faint but traceable. Greg pinged his old phone, dead now, but a new number popped up in a rural area, tied to a burner he'd bought. Sloppy. I called the sheriff again. Same vague tip. Heard he's hiding out near Route 17. Trouble follows him. Then I hit a trucker forum online, posting as a witness. Saw this guy arguing at a diner off 17. Looked like Ethan Carver, the gym creep. I dropped his mugshot again. Truckers talk, word would spread. He'd find no rest, no corner dark enough to hide. I pictured him. Haggard, jumpy, a man undone by his own arrogance. Claire's collapse was quieter but no less brutal. Her parents got the package. I heard it in a voicemail she left her sister, cracked and tearful. Mom won't talk to me. Dad hung up. Her family, her bedrock, had turned away. I pushed the school angle one last time, emailing a local news outlet from a burner. Teacher fired over scandal, parents still angry. I linked the tabloid piece, let them connect the dots. By afternoon, a small article ran, "Suburban school cuts ties amid rumors." No names, but her colleagues would know. Her career, her passion was ash. I drove out that evening, not to follow, just to breathe. The city faded into fields, the road stretching empty before me. My phone stayed quiet. Friends had stopped checking in, the story old news to them. But online, it thrived. Ethan's name trended in a regional hashtag, tied to fleeing trainer. Claire's art page, dormant now, got hate mail. Anonymous, vicious, my handiwork echoed by strangers. I stopped at a diner, ordered pie, and watched the waitress gossip with a trucker. "Heard about that guy on the run?" she said. I smirked into my coffee. The machine hummed on, unstoppable. Back home, I sat with Rusty, the house dark, the night pressing in. The divorce was final tomorrow. Claire's signature a ghost on the page. Ethan's life was a fugitive scramble. Claire's a beggar's plea. I'd stripped them bare, left them nothing but echoes of who they'd been. The cruelty wasn't loud. It was methodical, a bridge I'd built to their despair. I slept deep, the dog's warmth beside me, the weight of victory a steady pulse. Thursday morning, the divorce finalized with a clerk's stamp, a quiet end to 12 years. I stood in the courthouse, papers in hand, feeling neither joy nor sorrow, just a hollow completion. Claire didn't show. Her lawyer, a tired man in a cheap suit, handed over her copy and left. I drove home, the sky spitting rain, Rusty waiting at the door. The house was mine now, every inch reclaimed. But the machine wasn't done grinding. I'd built it to last, to chase them beyond this moment, and today I'd stoke its final embers. Ethan's unraveling was a slow bleed. Greg traced his burner. He'd moved again, a trailer park 2 counties over. I sent a package to the park manager, his mugshots, the tabloid link, a note, "Your new tenant's trouble." No signature. Let the locals shun him, force him out. Online, his name lingered. Truckers swapping stories, a bar fight rumor pinned on him. I posted one last time, a fake tip in a statewide missing persons group. Ethan Carver? Wanted for skipping debts? A stretch, but it'd stick. He'd run forever, a pariah with no roots. Claire's end was softer, but no less crushing. Her sister kicked her out. Greg caught a call where she begged, just one more night. Denied. She'd landed at a motel, the same kind she'd visited with Ethan. Irony thick as the rain outside. I mailed her parents again. A printed article, the school piece, with "Your daughter" scrawled on it. Her mother called her. A screaming match. Greg recorded, "You've shamed us." Claire sobbed, "I'm sorry." But the line went dead. Her bridges burned. Her world shrank to a single room. Her art dreams dust. Midday, I cleaned the last of her traces. Brushes in the trash, a scarf she'd loved donated. Friends texted congratulations on the divorce. Awkward but kind. I replied with thanks, kept it short. The tabloid story hit a plateau, but its echoes lived, shared in divorce forums. A warning tale. Ethan's gym got a new tenant. Claire's school hired her replacement. Their lives erased, mine rebuilt. I cooked dinner, steak again, Rusty begging as always. The machine slowed, its work near done, but its shadow loomed. Night fell, and I sat with a beer, the rain tapping the windows. Claire's phone went offline, dead battery or ditched, I didn't care. Ethan's burner pinged once, then vanished. They were ghosts now, hollowed out by my hand. The cruelty had been precise. A symphony of ruin I'd conducted without raising my voice. I'd won, not with rage, but with a cold, relentless will. The machine stilled, and I felt the quiet settle, a victor's peace earned through their fall. Friday dawned gray, the rain a steady drum against the roof. I woke late, Rusty nudging me for breakfast, the house a fortress of solitude. The divorce was done, the tabloid story fading, but its tendrils still curled through the ether, keeping Claire and Ethan in their cages. I fed the dog, brewed coffee, and sat at the table, the weight of the past weeks lifting like fog. The machine had ground them down, and now it rested, its purpose fulfilled. Today I'd survey the ruins, ensure the victory held, then let it go, not for them but for me. Ethan's trail had gone cold, but not silent. Greg's last ping showed him offline, likely ditching the burner after the trailer park fiasco. I checked online. His name popped in a backwater forum, a beware this guy post with his photo. Someone claimed he'd stiffed a mechanic. Another said he'd been tossed from a bar. He was a drifter now, a man unmoored, every step dogged by whispers I'd planted. I called the park manager, casual, posing as a creditor. Heard Ethan Carver was there? Still around? Gone, the guy grunted. Good riddance. I hung up, satisfied. He'd never settle, never rebuild. Claire's collapse was complete. Her motel stay stretched into a week. Greg tracked her credit card. A sad trickle of charges. Fast food, gas, a bottle of cheap wine. Her parents hadn't called back. Her sister blocked her number. I sent one final jab. A postcard to the motel, blank except for "You chose this." Let her stare at it, let it sink in. Online, her name faded, but the school scandal lingered in parent chats. A stain she'd never scrub off. She was alone, a shell of the woman I'd loved, her laughter silenced by her own hands and mine. Afternoon, I walked Rusty, the rain easing into mist. The neighborhood felt new, untainted by her ghost. Mark dropped by, beer in hand. "You're free, man," he said, clinking bottles. "Yeah," I replied, meaning it. We talked bridges, not betrayal, normalcy creeping back. Online, the story settled into obscurity, but its mark stayed. Ethan a pariah, Claire a caution. I turned their affair into a legend of ruin, a tale told in hushed tones. The machine had done its work, and I'd steered it with a steady hand. Night closed in, and I sat with Rusty, the house warm, the silence mine. The revenge was cruel, yes, methodical, unrelenting, a mirror to their deceit. I'd lost a wife, a life, but gained something harder. Control, a victory forged in their ashes. They'd betrayed me, and I'd buried them, not with fists, but with a mind sharper than they'd ever known. I finished my beer, scratched the dog's ears, and looked ahead. The machine slept, but I didn't. Not yet. The future was mine to build, and I'd do it alone, stronger for the fire I'd walked through.